Hey everyone, and welcome back to Don't Open That Door. As always, I am your energetic host, Justin, and I'm joined today by Dan. Dan, how you doing?
Doing pretty peachy today.
How you doing? Pretty peachy, huh? All right, Nico, how you doing?
I just had some delicious nacho fries from Taco Bell, so I am doing really, really well.
Oh, I had those last week.
They're so good, man.
You know, it's pretty easy to make them yourself.
Yeah, but I'm lazy.
So easy
there.
that it's almost like child's play.
Oh my God.
Which is also the movie they're reviewing today.
Oh my God.
1988 version. So no Aubrey Plaza for anyone today. Yeah, you know, this is kind of the consummate serial killer possessed doll movie, you know, definitely the first one that really hit the mainstream here in the States. So the movie opens up with a shootout between a notorious criminal. I think they call him He's a strangler, right? He strangles people. Yeah, Charles Lee Ray and the cops. They end up, cornering him in a toy warehouse, and just when he's about to kick the bucket, psych, he actually chants a voodoo incantation, transfers his soul to a doll, and then lightning strikes the whole place and blows it up.
Like it does.
Yeah. Pretty inauspicious opening, I'd say.
Yeah.
Then we get to, we kind of swap over to this single mom, Karen, and her son, Andy. Now, Andy loves the Good Guys TV show, and they just put out this doll, so, the media controls her thoughts. So now he wants this doll, too.
That's the real terror.
So we swap to his mom. She works in some kind of department store, and turns out there's like a miscreant outside who is selling this doll. Originally it's for like $100, which back in the 80s was ridiculous. But I guess he's willing to let it go for 30. So they do that. And once they get this doll, that's when they start to notice strange things. The doll's moving around. Things are like the TV's turning on and the doll's watching TV, and the doll's telling the kid, hey, I want to watch the TV, asking questions.
I really enjoy Animal Planet.
Yeah, I know, right? He wants to watch the 9 o'clock news. So naturally, most people would suspect something, but keep in mind, this is a universe where the movie Chucky never came out. So no one knows to suspect anything from these dolls. They really don't, because that movie hadn't come out yet. Public service announcement.
Damn it, Justin.
So, the mom's got to work late one day. She gets her friend to come through, Maggie, as it was. Maggie's a real friend. So she's, I'll watch your kid for you. No sweat. And Andy's a real sweet kid. He brushes his teeth when he's told. All this stuff, he does what he's told. Unfortunately,
Justin's version of sweet kid is obedience.
You brush your teeth.
Yes. So he does that, and then all of a sudden, you know what? Chucky thinks Maggie's in his words. What did he say? She was a bitch who deserved it. That's what the doll said about her. So he takes a hammer, and now this is a quite amazing piece of cinematography. He boops her on the head with the hammer, and she goes flying out the 6th-story window, which was pretty intense. And then she just lands. Now the cops show up, and Andy's mom, Karen, shows up, and she's like, oh my God, what happened? And Andy's chill as shit. He's like, look, mom, she had an accident. And I'm like, yo, real talk.
Just so matter-of-factly.
I mean, she was pretty chill too. Like, I remember the detective guy asks her, like, are you okay? And I'm like, she goes, yes. I was like, your best friend just died like 30 seconds ago. Like, how are you okay?
Yeah, and they even question, they look at the shoe prints and like, oh my God, it looks like the shoe, the little pajama shoes. What the hell are pajama shoes? They look like pajama shoes that Andy's got on. So, there's that little suspicion going on. And I guess Maggie didn't mean that much, because the very next day, Andy goes to school. And
oh my God, you're right. It was the next day.
Yeah, Andy goes to school, but Chucky told him to not go to school. So instead they go to what is, I guess you could call it, a more decrepit part of town. Definitely is not a nice place to be.
It's a homeless encampment.
No, it's not a homeless encampment, because there are houses.
Under the bridge?
They go to a house. And
yeah, after going through the homeless encampment.
All right, you can say what you want. It looks pretty fresh. But I mean, they get there.
Yes, the fresh homeless houses.
Charles actually went there to get rid of his old crime partner who betrayed him, Eddie. And Chucky basically just turns on the oven and he makes a couple noises, and Eddie walks over and shoots off his gat and boom, blows himself up. That was pretty simple. Cops come through and they're like, wait, what's this kid doing here? Now, the kid starts saying that the doll talks, and the mom's like, hey, you got to stop or they're going to take you away from me. Well, guess what? They actually take him away from her. So this kid gets put in like,
And that's the
I guess,
movie.
a mental asylum, essentially. And then the mom takes the doll back home. Again, the movie Chucky had never come out, so no one knew. But she's like, I'll throw you into the fire. And then I got this quote here. So the first lines that Chucky speaks in the movie that we hear are, where is it? You stupid bitch, you filthy slut. I'll teach you for like fucking with me or something like that. And I was like, wow, what a way to introduce yourself to the American public. And while I was contemplating that, we see the little bit of a skerfuffle between Karen and Chucky. And, she runs to the cop and she's like, no, the doll's for real alive. And the cop's like, no, he's not, lady. And, he drives her back, but then Chucky attacks him. So now he believes too. Long story short, they end up having one final confrontation at the house. And after, now this is very key here, they burn him alive, rip him apart, and shoot him to death twice. Only then do they actually kill him. There was a scene where Chucky goes to kill the guy who taught him how voodoo magic, which was an odd scene, but the guy manages to survive and tells them that they have to shoot him through the heart because his heart is human. But I guess his human heart was also fireproof because they definitely burned him to death first.
Mhm.
They also shot him again, point blank. So how they fucked that up, I don't know.
I don't know myself, but you know what? They definitely ended up killing him. And yeah, there was never any more sequels.
Oh, is that true?
Never.
Just kidding. As we all know, this movie spawned a hell of a lot of sequels. I lost count. But the first one kind of remains in most people's minds, the classic. And the one they think about when you say Chucky, like I just did twice, they mean Child's Play.
Motherfucker, I think of Rugrats.
Well, you can keep that. So, in terms of...
And Chucky has red hair.
Yeah.
Did they do that purposely?
I bet they did.
If you take Finster and rearrange it, it spells Lee Ray.
Shut the fuck
Does it really?
So, I guess to kick off here, this movie came out back in 88, before any of us were born. So let me ask, do the sound and visuals hold up?
I think they do. Okay. So first, I like the
Quick
sound.
backpedal there.
I want to clarify. I like the sound design, the soundtrack with the strings and all that was really cool. I thought it was very classic horror soundtrack, but very well done as well. The graphics, the special effects like the thunderstorm, the lightning storms and everything, and those parts seemed a little outdated, of course, but I was actually pretty impressed with Chucky and just how he moved, and it seemed very real to me. Actually, I was expecting a little bit less, but I was pretty impressed with that.
And actually, because a lot of it was real. Massive shout outs to my boy Brock Winkless, who did the puppetry for Chucky. And so a lot of what you saw with Chucky running around was actually done with a real puppet. Now, we haven't reviewed a ton of movies where, it's been strictly CG, but I am a big fan of using real things as opposed to CG. And I think this movie benefits from that tremendously.
Definitely, yeah. One of the best parts of the movie, by far.
Nico, do you have any thoughts about how well these stood up? I'm pretty much in agreement with Dan.
I mean, it's kind of... So I was watching this back, and I will say I agree about the sounds 100%, but this might be because I came into horror movies at a later time in my life. Only about like 3 or 4 years ago did I really get into the genre. And when I was watching it, that first scene where the lightning struck, like you could 100% tell that was layered over and either like rotoscoped in or just like it looked like a watercolor marker, man. It took me out of everything. Everything else, I will say, was nice, and particular shout out to however they did it with blowing up the building that his old partner was in. That was either a miniature or they were just like, hey, fuck it, we're going to blow up this goddamn building. Try and mess with me, because that was particularly impressive.
I do not know the specifics. I would imagine it would have to be a miniature.
Probably.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think having seen some of the older horror joints back when I was a little kid, I do think that to a certain extent, stuff like The Lightning, especially if you grew up watching older horror movies, you kind of learn to just let it go.
That's fair.
It's not ever going to look as good as something done now, but
Yeah.
you got to, suspend that disbelief. So speaking of, Nico, you made an interesting point to me about, some moviegoers back then had about the movie. Why don't you go ahead and share that with us?
So I was talking with one of my friends, Desi, which if you're listening, hey, who said that at first people didn't know if it was Andy who killed Maggie or if it was actually Chucky, because when we see the perspective, it is, as Justin was saying, some pretty handy dandy camera work, if you don't mind my saying, where it's all first person coming from Chucky. But at the time, we don't have the actual context of knowing who it is. All we see from the audience perspective, and I guess Maggie's perspective, is there is a flash of a tiny little scamp in some denim overalls and some dorky ass long sleeve shirt just running by. And by the way, Andy dresses the exact same as Chucky because he's like that lonely and sad. But that aside, there was a bit of a from what I understand, there was a bit of a dialogue in the horror movie community as well as just the public at large about, at first, was it really Chucky that did it or was it Andy? And so that kind of added to things. Myself, I thought it was pretty immediately clear that it was Chucky, considering, well, everything. But, I mean, I don't got a time machine. I could be wrong.
That's actually an interesting point, because as soon as you said that, I was immediately like, it's obviously Chucky. But then I thought, like Justin had kind of mentioned before, the movie Chucky hadn't come out yet. So
they don't know any better.
Right.
Yeah.
And like we, having grown up post Chucky, we all know that Chucky's the killer. So like, of course, like, as we see that first person view and we go, oh yeah, that's Chucky. But I guess if this was the first time ever seeing anything like this, I could very easily see how people would think it could potentially be Andy, and maybe Chucky is just whispering and like telling Andy and convincing him to do things. I could see that.
No, definitely. I pretty in agreement with that. And another thing, so this movie, and again, this was one of the, to my knowledge, biggest, kind of possessed doll kind of movies. This is way before Annabelle. Some tropes that we can definitely look here. That the first is obviously no one believes you because it's just a doll, right? Like,
yeah,
the kid, no one believes him, and then the police officer didn't believe Karen, his mom. So, how do you guys feel about that trope? And is it tired in horror movies? The whole like, no one believes me about the monster.
I think in a thing like this, I think it's fine. I mean, to me, that's realistic. Like if I had a kid and he was like, hey, my doll is talking to me, I would like to think I'd be like, oh, the doll's haunted. But in reality, I wouldn't jump to that conclusion. I'd be like, okay, you're just making things up. You're convincing yourself. You think it is. But I think once I would start seeing the doll just like watching TV and doing all this other stuff that like it shouldn't be doing, then I'd be like, okay, something's going on here. But at first, I probably wouldn't believe him. And then especially if I was like in a police officer position or something like that, like working in New York City, I can't tell you the amount of like weird, crazy things that people say. I'm sure like police officers deal with a lot of that probably, and just, oh, so and so did this, and it's like, well, no, they didn't. You're weird or whatever. I don't know, but they probably get a lot of weird stuff, and I hope that they follow up with it anyways, because maybe it's true. But still, like, they might be desensitized to that maybe. So I can see the police officer not totally believing them.
No, I gotta agree with that. And I work with a population almost as strange as residents of New York, and that is teenagers. I am a high school English teacher, and I cannot tell you the amount of times I've had kids come up to me and like say very quietly in my ear, hey, Mr. Madden, join my fish cult. I shit you not, that's something that they've actually done a number of times. So I can totally see it as plausible in terms of, like, definitely no one would believe this kid, like, hey, my doll is talking to me. Yeah, it's got 3 programmable lines, dude. You're just lonely. So, like, I buy it. It is kind of tired in retrospect, but, given the movie a chance in context, I buy it.
I got a question for you, Nico.
Oh, yeah?
Did you ever join that fish cult?
Oh, fuck yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah. Yeah, Cthulhu, Banoggin.
What? So
Wow.
I was gonna say, in terms of believability, so you said you're a teacher. I'm a paranormal investigator, and
Oh, yeah.
for sure I believe this. I kind of grew up in a culture where everything, anything could be possessed. You're walking down the road and you see like a coin, don't pick that up, could be an evil spirit.
Possessed coin?
Dude, anything.
Is that a thing? That's happened?
In my culture, anything could be possessed. Anything.
Yo, don't fuck with that Abraham Lincoln circle. It'll mess you up.
Dude, literally in my culture, anything could be cursed.
I
Food,
mean, respect to your culture. I wasn't expecting,
jewels.
possessed penny.
So like dolls, we were already hip to the doll thing way before Chucky. But
Oh yeah, no, those are uncanny as hell. So like, I'm with you, but like, I don't know. I'm just a white man. What do I know?
about voodoo dolls, very little, because I will tell you, we knew about this, okay? Being from the Caribbean, we already knew. We knew what was up. I almost muted the movie when he started doing the whole chant. Because I was like,
I unironically believe that.
Because I was like, nah, not in my house. So
Speaking of voodoo dolls,
oh yeah,
there's the scene when Chucky goes back to kill the guy who taught him
His
how
partner?
to. No,
Yeah.
the guy who teaches him how to transfer.
Whose name
his
was
spirit.
John?
yeah, his name is John.
John.
Which actually makes sense. It really makes a lot of sense because a lot of like the best practitioners out there, and y'all know who you are, like
Shout
no,
outs to you.
no,
Shout
for
out to our voodoo audience.
no, but
Love
like
you.
there's a presence for sure on the island of Haiti, and they have a lot of French influenced names over there. So the first name Jean could easily get warped over to John.
Okay, all right. I'll give you that.
But anyways, he goes to kill John, and John has a voodoo doll of himself. So
Which, like,
Chucky-
why the fuck would you have that?
Well, see, that's what I was wondering. But then I thought, well, I mean, he might not have made it. Somebody else may have made it. But how do you get rid of a voodoo doll?
You want me to answer that?
Actually, yes, please do.
Yeah.
So I'd be willing to bet that the reason why he had the voodoo doll in the first place is for use in rituals to empower himself. As remember, what happens to the doll kind of happens to you. So if you do a certain ritual to empower the doll, that can empower you. There would be reasons to keep something like that around. Now, how to get rid of a voodoo doll is you have to break the enchantment on it first.
Huh.
I guess
A
that
whole lot
makes
of good
sense.
empowering it did.
I was
Yeah,
thinking like you can't just like destroy it because then you're screwed.
No, but keep in mind, right? The voodoo doll is bound with an article of you. So if you break the enchantment and remove that piece of you from it, it most likely will not have any power over you anymore.
Huh.
The more you know.
Okay. All right.
Learn something new every night here on Don't Open That Door.
You're right. You do. So, is it scary? We'll start in a round table, starting with you, Dan. Did this movie scare you?
Not really.
Would it have scared you if you were a kid?
If I was a kid, yes. Yes. I think to me, one of the scariest parts that I actually loved this part was near the end of the movie when everyone involved, like all the main characters, finally believe Chucky is the doll and they're fighting him in the house and they burn him. They burn the crap out of him. But he's like still alive. So he's like all like melted and blackened and all messed up and he's like still attacking them. I thought that was actually kind of creepy. I mean, I wasn't like scared, but like I think if I was like 10, I'd be like terrified.
Definitely agree.
And even now, I was like, well, that's kind of creepy,
All right, Nico. So, nowadays, is this scary at all to you? You find this movie scary?
Good Lord, no. Like, not even a little bit. There, No, in a word, no, not even close. When I was watching this, I was actively trying to take it in as a comedy instead of a horror movie, because by the end of the first act of the movie, it's just, I knew I wasn't gonna get my, this guy wasn't gonna scare my socks off here.
Back in the days, though, would it have got to you?
I mean, yeah, honestly, probably. And so here's a little bit of insider knowledge for listeners. So while earlier I said that I only recently got into horror movies about 3-4 years ago, that is because when I was 6 years old, or roundabouts that age, I was a wee lass. I was watching a movie with my parents, and that movie was called The Sixth Sense. And I got about 25% of the way through that movie before I was like, nope, not doing this. Nope, absolutely not. And I never watched a single horror movie after that until about 2017, with a couple of exceptions, one of which being Alien, because I could get into that because it was like sci-fi. But yeah, no, I 100% believe that if I was a child, I would have been terrified of Chucky, particularly at the end with that scene where there's just the black ooze dripping off of his body as he's slowly marching towards everyone trying to exact his revenge. I'm pretty sure I would have been terrified. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty much in agreement with both you guys. Nico, I was actually kind of similar as well. Growing up, my mom loved to scare the hell out of me. And, whether that would be like, sometimes she would take things from me. Like, for example, there's like a toy or a video game I really liked. She would take it and then she would like write a note in fake blood saying that like a vampire took it. And then like,
dude,
well, that's terrifying.
I absolutely believe that, knowing your mother.
And I would have to go like find it and like go on a quest to get my stuff back. And
a lot of stuff about you is starting to make sense.
Yeah, so that explains a lot.
So that, was one piece of it. But, sometimes like parents are like, when you watch a horror movie, like, hey, just so you know, Johnny, it's not real. Like my mom would be like, well, this one movie might not be real, but just so you know, it's definitely ghosts out there. So watch your back. And I would be like,
fuck okay. What you heard. Some of these are real. Not going to tell you which.
And then I was like, all right, you know what? I guess I'm just not going to sleep ever. So that was certainly a thing for me growing up. And, like I said, coming from a family where supernatural stuff was like, in a culture where that's so embodied in what you do. Yes, scared the shit out of me back when I was younger.
And that's fair.
Yeah. And I think nowadays it's easy to kind of look past it. So as we were saying, Nico, you mentioned, Dan, you mentioned that one of your favorite moments was when Chucky was melted and was attacking them. Mm-hmm. Do you have any other moments that you really enjoyed?
Not that really stood out. I mean, that was far and away my favorite moment.
All right, Nico, how about you? What's your favorite moment?
My favorite moment is so easy. I was just dying in laughter when I
know
saw
what it is too, so paint the scene.
So this is the penultimate scene. Chucky is going up the apartment elevator, and he is at first alone, and he's been in kind of a scuffle. He's looking a lot worse for wear. He's got some burn marks on him. Some random family gets on, and the wife of the family says, "Oh my God, this doll looks atrocious." And as they get off, Chucky just goes and says, "Fuck you," which like was out of nowhere and was just so fucking funny.
That was pretty good. My favorite moment is actually at the very start of the movie, where we have this scene of the kid, Andy, and he's actually making breakfast.
This dude sucks at making breakfast. Oh my God.
That was a good scene though, actually.
And the thing is this, so he was making toast, but he got distracted. So the toast got burned and he like overpoured the cereal and he took out like the whole tub of butter for like one piece of toast. And he's doing all this stuff. And you're like, dude, what are you doing? And then we go to see, oh, he just wanted to serve his mom breakfast in bed. I feel that. I mess with your energy, Andy. And I also mess with the fact that Andy is resilient. Okay. Like he is not like all these kids in horror movies need to learn from Andy. Andy literally comes face to face with his own mortality. Like he's sitting there and we see Chucky, like when he's in the mental ward, Chucky's like coming into the mental ward and we can see Chucky going up the steps and Andy sees him too. And Andy literally sits there. He's like, he's going to kill me. He's going to kill me. And then what does he do? He gets out. Like he just leaves. He's like, you know what? I'm not about to get killed. And even when, it comes time to like Andy's the one who sets Chucky on fire to burn him to death. Like, Andy is not a passive actor. Andy's like, you know what? Nah, I must defend myself. And this is at like the age of like what? He must be like 6 or 7.
Yeah, he was 6.
Yeah. Now that you mentioned that scene when Andy is in the psych ward and knows that Chucky's coming to kill him, he's trying to like get out. So he's like pounding on the door, and like the doctor comes in or goes to the door, and doctor's basically like, no, you're lying, and then turns and walks away. So when the doctor walks away, Andy, who's standing on a chair so that he can be tall enough to see out the little window in the door, Andy like turns back around facing the camera. And I thought the next like 10 or 15 seconds, that scene there, I thought that actor did a really good job. Andy's actor, like just because Andy is like realizing that he's trapped and is going to probably die, get killed by Chucky. And you see that dawn on his face, and then he slowly like shrinks down, and then kind of, he doesn't fall, but he sort of like stumbles, falls sort of off of the chair onto the, like he's leaning up against the door, and then kind of slides down and falls to the floor. And that whole scene, to me, I was like, that's exactly what would happen. He acted that very, very well. And I was actually really impressed with that scene.
Definitely agree. And for context, I'm pretty sure I've mentioned this in other episodes of the podcast. I'm not the biggest children person, but the actor playing Andy was honestly the best part of this movie. He was such a great actor, and I really hope that he went on to do other things. I could look it up right now, but I'm not going to.
No, he really didn't. That was
damn it, Justin.
No, that was Alex Vincent, who had a long and storied career as part of the Chucky franchise. He's been in 1, 2, 3, 4 of the Chucky movies, most recently in 2017's Cult of Chucky. He's been in a couple other things, but I don't really think he's been in too much.
Okay, never mind. That's wholly depressing.
Is it really? I mean, hey, maybe he must have made his money.
I mean, I guess. I just think about the kid who played Anakin Skywalker and how his life was ruined by that movie.
No, apparently this guy, he was active, from 98 to about 93, took a break, and then started again in 2008.
From when to 93?
1988, sorry.
There. Did a whole Benjamin Button thing.
Yep. So let me ask you guys this. Well, first and foremost, I would say, what would we do different in the situation? But obviously, this is why you don't bring fucking dolls into your house, though, right?
For real.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So aside from that, let's say, you just happened to be in a situation where there was a killer possessed doll. What would you do?
Kick it. Like, just fucking kick it. That's it.
Hey, it might stab you with a knife.
I wish a motherfucker would. I am 6'4". I will end this son of a bitch.
Hey, you know what? Chucky could blow you up with your oven.
Yeah, I don't live in a crack den.
I would have fucked him up.
Real shit. Just stomp him out, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess, you really just got to have some friends who believe in you. And that was actually one of the things
or
Chucky
just record
did.
it.
So you would get friends?
I would, yeah, pretty much,
friends.
I guess. Have to get some of those on Amazon or something. But no, for real, like one of the, and I don't even know if Chucky knew what he was doing, but by killing Maggie, he killed the one person who would unconditionally believe Karen. Maggie would, no matter what, have Karen's back, no matter what happened. So
real eyes realize real lies, man.
Yeah. And Maggie was a real ally. Think about it. To buy the doll, she knew she was looking for the doll in the first place. She's like, hey, there's a guy outside selling them. Then she tries to haggle the guy down from his price that's already cut in half. He says, yeah, the doll's originally 100. I'll give it to you for 50. And she's like, how about 10? And I was like, I mean, you haggle like my mom, but yes. And then, you have a situation where, again, Karen gets tagged to work an extra shift, and Maggie's like, oh, yeah, it's no sweat. I got you. I'll watch your kid. And she's like, oh, no, you
fuck their boss, by the way.
You don't have to do it again. I mean, you know what, though? It looks, judging from the weather, that it is approaching the Christmas season, and that is likely why they had to work those kinds of conditions.
I could give a fuck less.
Hey,
Fuck this
I'm just letting you
capitalism
know.
bullshit.
I'm just letting you know. Just letting you know. Okay. And by the way, Charles Lee Ray was a communist. So
Was
it says
he?
so. It says so.
Where? Where does it say that?
If you zoom in on his back pocket when he's turned around
So
behind his
he's
Zoom
pillar,
in on his.
Communist.
Okay.
no, there's a copy of the Communist Manifesto.
Yeah.
Just
Okay.
go back and look at the Blu-rays.
Sure.
So,
no, totally.
So that is what that is. Yeah, I agree with you guys. Aside from just stomping them out, I'd probably gather up the homies and stomp them out, or I don't know, put the doll in like a cage or
Box.
something. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
I feel like if I was Andy, I get that he really wanted a friend, but if the doll was like, I want to watch 9 o'clock news, I'd be like, what the fuck? No,
You're boring.
no, you suck. Like, no, or like, I don't know.
Let's play Battletoads, man.
I know you. Yeah, I know you're only 6 years old, but come on, like Andy, you can do better than that.
I want to watch the stock market. Wow, Andy, this is why you have no friends.
So let's go look at this first. On Rotten Tomatoes, we've got this here sitting at a critic rating, 68% fresh. Audience score, 63%. Is that roughly around the values of where you see this?
I think so. Yeah, I'd say that's pretty accurate for me. Maybe like high 60s.
Nico, let the hate flow through you.
God, no, this movie is utter dog shit. I've been waiting to say this. I could not stand this movie.
Wow.
Like,
why do you have a wrong opinion?
Everything about yeah, you can go eat shit. Everything about this movie was unbelievable, and not like that was amazing. No, it was amazingly bad. There were so many times where even outside of the context of there being a possessed doll, I was just taken out of the scene. For my first example, in one of the final scenes when Karen is between herself and Chucky, she closes the door on him. She is sitting down on the floor, and Chucky just keeps stabbing through the door, which I guess is as thin as paper, and she doesn't fucking move. She doesn't do anything. She just lets it sit there and get closer and closer to her face. Like, no, are you kidding me? Or the time when Chucky goes and he meets John, the voodoo master who taught him, and when John turns around to see Chucky, he stands there for a full 3 seconds with no expression on his face before he drops his mug, and that was terrible acting. And let's talk about the part where this kid passes through probably hundreds of people, gets on a subway to walk through a homeless shelter to the middle of the Chicago ghetto, and nobody stops him? Are you kidding?
I see that you're bringing common sense into this.
Yeah, and also, why wouldn't Chucky finish the job after the car accident when he almost killed the fucking detective? And about that scene as well, why would you keep driving the car if there is someone about the size of your arm who is trying to just I don't know, vaguely tickle your ear and try and kill you? You could have just stopped the car, gotten out, and been on your merry way. Your legs are 3 times this. I'm gonna stop.
So I will say this. No one stopped him because it's a city and everyone minds their business.
Nah, fuck out of here, man. Fuck out of here. If I saw a random little kid walking around with a creepy ass doll, I would not be someone who would just be like, oh yeah, this kid probably knows where he's going. I would go and ask him.
You know what? All those people who ignored him lived.
True shit.
And I would have lived too, because fuck that doll, man. Fuck that. Fuck this movie.
And the reason why Chucky left in the car scene is because he got scared, because he thought he was immortal. But then the cop shot him and he felt pain.
That was before.
No,
yeah,
during
the cop hadn't shot him yet.
The cop manages to shoot him in the accident thing, and then Chucky leaves and runs away. That's when he leaves.
That was before he got shot. The ending of that scene was when he got shot, and he gets blown back into the alley.
Yeah, and then he dips. Is that what you're talking about? Why didn't he finish the job?
Yeah, like he could have he had this is what okay, when they get into a car accident, the car flips over and
Right.
Chucky has this huge kitchen knife, and instead of stabbing the cop in the neck, which was only like maybe a few inches further than what he did, he plunges the knife into the upholstery of the car to look swag as shit, I guess.
Well, you gotta
Gotta
keep
do
in
the
mind,
style.
you gotta style. So now we've answered that question. So where would you rate this, Nico? Like on a scale from 1 to 100, what's your if you could have a Nico, rotten Nico, where would you
I
where
believe we
would you
should call
put
that
this?
Nico. I would give this a fresh 5.
Really?
Yeah.
You
This
serious?
movie was fucking bad, man. I
Hold up,
did
hold up,
not
hold
like
up.
it at all.
So you really think this movie's that bad?
I like 10 at best, yes.
Interesting. So I've come with a correct opinion now. I agree with Dan, and I would say that if anything, I would actually maybe put this at a low 70s, actually, for me.
Boo.
Yes, I hear the ghosts of hate, but I will not be undone. I think that, this movie, especially at the first kind of half, I think it does something that a lot of horror movies fail to do. I think it establishes tension, and not in the
Does it though?
plotting way that some other horror movies do, where you find yourself half falling asleep and bored. That's incredible. But it's more so to the point where things are happening. And or keep in mind, in a pre-Chucky world, you didn't even know if it was the doll or the kid. There's that air of mystery to it. We see the footsteps, and things are happening, and you're thinking to yourself, is it the doll? Is it the doll? Oh, it's got to be the doll. And then the doll actually comes to life, and it doesn't look like shit. And it's good, and it helped really bring to the forefront a ton of tropes, like the whole kind of genre that Annabelle and all these other movies exist based on this. A lot of them do. So yeah, for me, I personally think it's a really well executed movie. For sure, Chucky's foul mouth lends itself to maybe, humanizing him a little bit in some respects, but I don't know. I like it. I really, really did like it. And I do have to give a shout out to the director and one of the co-writers of the film, Tom Holland, who
Later was in Avengers.
but he did direct one of my favorite movies of all time, and a movie we will definitely be covering for the podcast at some point.
Oh?
Fright Night.
Oh, okay. No, Fright Night is excellent. Significantly better than this.
So yeah, but that's just my thoughts. Anyone have anything kind of final to say here before we kind of wrap it up?
No, I think that about covers it for me.
Yeah, I mean, I could go on, but I won't.
This is the end, friend. I would like to thank everybody for giving us a listen. If you please could go ahead and subscribe or follow us on social media. Links and descriptions will be listed on this podcast. And yeah, that's goodbye from Justin, Nico, and Dan. Hope everyone has a great night. And please, ladies and gents, don't open that door. Bye.